So welcome to our January community of practice. I hope you guys are doing good. I got to visit two of you in the last week, so that's super awesome. I really just commend y'all. I've seen exceptional things happening. And I'm so excited. I'm in the process of figuring out the extensions the expansions as we expand the grant to cohort 2 next year. So I'll be reaching out to y'all specifically with what schools or grade bands you're wanting to expand to, so that I can get that rolling, because I have to send that in by the end of February. So you'll be hearing from me about that. So over the next School Support Institute sessions, we'll be on advancing, our next sessions will be on advancing literacy outcomes through core instruction. What are you hoping to gain from attending those? The one specifically on core instruction, and you can either put it in the chat or you can unmute and just have a chat with us. What are you hoping to gain from attending the core instruction?
I'm hoping to gain just more information about how to support the teachers that are who are at the front of our pre-teaching initiative in the classroom, because they do still need a little bit of guidance on not necessarily how to do it, but what can happen as a result of it. And maybe even if they have some strategies in there that they may recommend, that will be helpful too, to give our teachers a little more guidance on that, about the core instruction and how it can all help the kids improve literacy wise.
Yeah, I love that. So I'll definitely pass it on to them. Just making those connections for sure between, even if you're not doing the pre-teaching, between pre-teaching and the core curriculum and where those exist. Anybody else?
I agree with Jordan, just on how I can support my teachers better. I have a lot of new teachers, and on top of the new teachers, even some of the older teachers, they can use some new strategies and some new ways to do things, and I believe that'll be very helpful.
Absolutely.
Natalie, for us, I would say also using the data to make good decisions from the data that we're collecting from our literacy screeners, from our pre-teaching interventions and accelerations, using that within our core planning. That's something I have my interventionist here, we were talking this morning specifically about that. And since they attend those meetings with us, I would like to really focus on that as well.
Absolutely. That's another great point, using, and I was really impressed by the use of y'all using data yesterday in particular. So using that data, this thing is being so silly. Y'all bear with me with just a second. I'm still having issues over here. Using that data. Anybody else? Nope. Okay. And I got some just saying that. Trying to forward it to one other person. Let's see. Miss Antoinette, you're here. I'm still getting emails saying that you can't get in, but you're here, so we're good. Okay. All right. Let me roll back with sharing screen. Okay. So all those are great. I will definitely make sure I pass those on. Data, connections to the pre-teaching, and considering those new teachers. And that's happening across the state. That's everywhere. Ways to motivate teachers to be open to change when they're to focus on the curriculum. Botany, can you explain that a little bit more? Are the teachers resistant to the curriculum, or are there trying to be changes happening within the curriculum?
We've found that they're not teaching the curriculum.
Okay.
And what they're teaching isn't benefiting the students.
Okay. Is that the K2 or is that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Part of that comes in too, and I'll definitely help them to make connections between that as well. That comes into a lot where the teachers don't really understand why those things are happening in the curriculum and what the payoff is for the students. If they don't see that, they're not going to do it. They'll be like, I don't know why we're doing this. Why do we have to change what we had before was working, right? So I love y'all little master teacher over there. Between you and she, really getting in so they can like during like the clusters, like planning with them to see why do these pieces exist in CKLA, and doing some model lessons where you can show them like what the payoff is for the kids, even within that one lesson. So they can see like why are we doing this? Like I know I've been at 2 different districts where we started using CKLA for the first time. That's what y'all are using there, right?
Yes.
Yes. And in both places, it was a struggle initially because the teachers really didn't understand, especially when it came to the knowledge strand. Like they wanted to use pieces and parts of the skills, but they really had trouble rolling out the knowledge strand because they didn't see like, why are we doing this? Why are these stories like this? Why do the cards look like this? Like there was just a lot of confusion around that and understanding why. And I think as long as somebody proficient is doing it on campus and they see students grow, they kind of start to buy into that and they start kind of rolling with it. But they really have to see the proof in the pudding before they like, I don't know why we do that as educators. We have to feel like we have to see the proof. Like you have to seeing is believing kind of thing. But they do. And as frustrating as it is, I know that helps. That's helped me so much with the buy-in on campus, with them fully switching and then really getting a lot of training for them around all the different components of it so they can see how they all work together is another great thing. But I can definitely help work with that too. Okay, thank y'all so much for sharing. Yeah, Jordan, second all those as well. Okay, so I'm definitely going to pass all those on to Meredith and Danielle. So today we're going to talk about just capitalizing on your time as a literacy innovation coordinator and building your capacity across the campus and the district. You were hired for a very particular special reason. And the reason is your knowledge base and expertise around literacy. And you are a treasure trove of knowledge. And just like when we're teachers in the classroom, before I branched out to be a master teacher for 5 years, I had great success in my classroom. I love my classroom. I didn't necessarily want to move out of my classroom. I had a huge impact on with my kids. I had great relationships with my kids. But my administrator saw something in me. I didn't see something in myself at the time. And he said, Natalie, you don't understand the impact you can have on the entire school. And then it became, you don't understand the impact you can have on the district. And then it became, you don't understand the impact you can have on the state. You all hold that power. And you were put in this position, even if you're working with a group of kids and not directly with teachers all the time, you still have this very powerful gift that most of the people on your campus don't necessarily have. And you have this knowledge that we have to help share so that we can expand the impact that you have, not just on the few kids you meet with, but on everybody, because you are a treasure trove of knowledge. Okay. And it's needed so bad in the field right now. So we're going to identify areas of need across the campus or the district where you could share your capacity, and then how you can grow that capacity in literacy in particular, and then that collaborate time that everybody loves so much, and then a closure. So in the chat, type some needs according to literacy and ELA data across your campus or your district, but don't press enter yet. What are some needs? It can either be looking at beginning of year or middle of the year data. It can be walkthrough data. It can be, what are some needs you're seeing either on your campus or across your district in regards to literacy? Type that in the chat, but don't press enter. See someone else typing, so I'm gonna give you a few more seconds. Thumb up if anybody needs a few more seconds to finish typing. Okay, everybody press enter. Students' ability to interact with complex text, that's probably happening everywhere. fluency, grammar comprehension, teachers' growth mindset, amen, data analysis, increasing student growth in reading and writing, teachers seeing the data as valuable to core instruction. Yes, making that connection. Teachers struggling to not feel defeated, feeling competent to address the issues and support is important. Yes, all these things. Okay. And I'm willing to bet that most of you are probably seeing these pretty close to these same things happening across the campus or across the district, just in different degrees, right? It's really important though. I love how each of you were able to pinpoint exactly at least one or a few more things. So it means that you really have the pulse. We've been talking a lot about quantitative data, looking at screeners, looking at progress monitoring to make decisions. We haven't talked a lot about qualitative data yet, but it sounds like you have a really good understanding of what an issue could be in your school or in your district that you want to see more growth in. And this is where growing your capacity and the impact you have on all these different teachers really helps to close the gap because you're only one person, right? So let's talk more about that. So you've already all kind of identified one, but we've been looking at different data points to determine needs with different students and possibly even teachers. I want you to consider now that qualitative data as well to determine what needs there are across your campus or your district. Possible needs could be, but are not limited to these things. So if you are having problems with looking at data or fluency or something in particular, is it training around the curriculum? That's a problem. Do you need more training maybe around the curriculum? Do your teachers need some more support or differentiation, how to differentiate a lesson? Do your teachers need help grouping students? Do your teachers need help providing an effective model with explicit and direct instruction around those literacy practices? Do your teachers need help checking for understanding throughout the lesson? Or could possibly your teachers need clear and concise expectations from themselves so the students know exactly what it is they're supposed to do within that part of the lesson, okay? So I want you to kind of just think about those things for a second. After you've looked at the data, at quantitative data, and after you've considered qualitative data and you're starting to ask yourself, why are those things a weakness? Why are teachers not necessarily using curriculum as intended? I want you to think about those things, and then we can talk about how can we grow your capacity across the district. And I want you to keep this in mind, especially if you're a district level person. But even if you're a school level person, this is going to make your life easier, especially if you're a district level person though. I don't want you just to consider leaders because it's going to be harder for you to move the needle if we're not considering all three of these groups of people. So your teachers are one thing. Your leaders all come to the table. The people who are supporting you, who are evaluating you and helping evaluate teachers, all have a certain amount of knowledge themselves. It may be a lot, it may be limited. And then you have support staff on your campus. We've recently had a lot of trainings around how to really, really utilize the paraeducators on your campus. And we had, guys, when I was in Jefferson Parish at Adams, we had, like I told you, we had 14 languages spoken across my campus. We had a ton of ESL paras, but we were not maximizing them the way we could have been. We didn't really even know what to tell them to do. We were just like, oh my goodness, nobody speaks English. Like, what do we do now? There are so many things if we're really just taking even 10 to 15 minutes and being intentional where we can really help them to help and have an impact on our campuses or on your campus. Okay. These are just some examples. There are 10 billion more, but these are just some examples. Do y'all know who Laura Lee is?
She is one of the supervisors for Bossier Parish Elementary.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I'm gonna let her in. Thanks, Jordan. Okay, so these are just some examples. This is not all of the examples. Teachers. So maybe they need some training around the curriculum. That's kind of self-explanatory. That could be a vendor coming in to help. That could be you as the innovation coordinator or a master teacher or an instructional coach doing some during teacher collaboration. It could happen during a PD day. It could happen during even, I guess, faculty meeting. Then you have your leaders. They need training around the curriculum too from an observation and evaluation standpoint. Theirs doesn't need to be as deep, but they need to have a general understanding of the curriculum, because if they're going in to observe teachers and leave feedback or to evaluate, they need to know if the curriculum's being implemented effectively. And when I say what I mean when I say that is not, are they reading the script of the curriculum? Are they using every piece of the curriculum? What I mean is when they're using the curriculum, are students mastering that day's lesson? That's what I mean, okay? Because sometimes we have to make moves within the curriculum that are going to make an impact because the curriculum is written for the average student in the average school. There are going to be some things that you have to do with that curriculum, but teachers have to have a full understanding of the curriculum and of their students to really make educated decisions on what they should do as a professional around the curriculum. And then our support staff. How do we provide support in the curriculum to our paraeducators? Is there a certain way we can show them how to use the anchor charts in the room? Is there something we need to show them within the curriculum about repeated directions happening? Could they be using sentence stems correctly with their students in small group? So one thing, I don't know, it was mind blown. It was a master teacher, and I had a teacher that was one of my ELA teachers. She had a para. She had about 10 special education students in her room, and she had made copies of the teacher manual for the para. And in there, she highlighted where it says, y'all see, in guidebooks where it says like, repeat these, like it says these directions. She highlighted and said, repeat there. It was something so easy. It probably took her an extra 5 minutes of planning that week, but it allowed the para to be so intentional in helping those kids inside of the curriculum. Little bitty things like that could make a huge impact. Okay. So then we talked about differentiation techniques. That might be something that your teachers need more support in. A lot of times we say differentiate and we don't tell them what that looks or what that sounds like. A lot of times they think that means creating a separate resource. A lot of times they think that means that we have to, they think it's this new creation thing. It may not be. It really may be writing the question in a different way, phrasing it in a different manner, probing with questions so students truly understand what's being asked of them. It may mean a sentence stem, it may mean that, but it's just looking at that lesson. When you're guiding them through teacher collaboration and you're looking at those lessons, are you able to ask them questions that help guide them to what do your students need to master that lesson? It's that simple. And it might be defining a word. It might be like, what do they need differently in the curriculum? That's what differentiation is. What do they need different in order to help them to fully access that lesson and master that day's lesson? But they need you to model that explicitly because they don't know. If they're not doing it, it's not because they don't want to, it's because they really don't know. Leaders, looking for all, when they're going in with the lens to see how that lesson is going, looking for all students mastering the lesson or evidence of differentiation being effective in their walkthroughs. So if you can't look at all these things in a walkthrough every day, every time, but if this is what your need is in your school or your district, are you giving your leaders the pieces they need to be proficient to do that? Something you could do for support staff in that instance, a 10 or 15 minute in-service where support staff participates in a differentiation activity that they can use with their students. So if you see a big thing is in guidebooks, me and my teachers, I would have them use that let's express our understanding slide as kind of their exit ticket. And so if you really just did a 10 or 15 minute in-service where you brought the paras in, you show them exactly how to use that sentence stem with the students, because you can't just give it to them. It has to be modeled for how to use it with the students. And you walk that para through how to do that. And you say, okay, I want you to do this in your lessons during exit ticket time. That's going to have a huge impact. That's going to be growing your capacity across your campuses or your campus. Okay, then lastly, our last example is teachers. That model's like the model's not strong enough to where students know exactly what to do. Okay. Team teaching or modeling a lesson to show and call out an effective model of direct and explicit instruction. So I'm trying to think of a CKLA example. Oh, something this simple. Let's talk about this. In their little reader, they have a reader, and a lot of times I would see my teachers just like reading their little hearts out, and the students didn't even have the book to the right page. They don't have it up on the screen where they're able to track their finger for students to follow along. Little things like that, asking probing questions as they read. Sometimes in the manual, it doesn't do everything their students might need. Just modeling that and tagging the parts of the model so they see why that's effective is going to make a huge impact on the kids. For leaders, giving leaders call outs or success criteria of a model to look for as they're doing walkthroughs. So if you're like, okay, leader, okay, principal, assistant principal, whoever's on campus, when you're doing walkthroughs of these kinds of lessons, I want you looking for these pieces in a model. Are they doing these things? Are they doing a think aloud if it's necessary? Give them those pieces if they don't know, if they're not proficient in that. And then for support staff, remodeling the expectations of the process for individuals or groups of students. So after the para sees the teacher do the model, does the para know how to pick the pieces of that model to remodel it to the kids? Because 9 times out of 10, the students who need the remodel are the students the para is working with, right? So is the teacher delivering that model in a way that paras can take it? Do the paras know what pieces to take? When I was doing a model, I would actually number, if we were annotating text, I would number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. If I was doing a claim, I would number a process. I would make it a process so that the students could copy that. The paras need that so that they can do that with the students too. Okay. So this is kind of a lot, right? But I wanted y'all just to consider when you're looking, we've all identified needs. I feel so good about y'all identifying needs across your campus or your campuses, why those needs might be happening, but how can you grow your capacity as a leader is really where I want you to go next with your train of thought. Okay. Everybody's trying to make a huge impact. Y'all are doing a great job on that because the data shows that. But sometimes it's about working smarter and not harder. And if you are the sole holder of this knowledge, then it becomes very difficult to move the needle. So, just copying your knowledge, your train of thought, your practices across the campus or the campuses is really where you're going to see tremendous growth, not little growth, but tremendous growth. So some next steps. You've all determined an area of need. I feel good about that. The next thing I want you to do is I want you just to kind of start thinking about what materials or what personnel or what structures do you need to fill these areas of need, but also grow your capacity. And what I mean when I say that is, does your need require planning with teachers? Does it require some model lessons? Does it require team teaching? Does it require structured teacher collaboration time? Does it require a 20-minute, one day a month or one day every other week with paras? What do you need in order to grow your capacity? And then how can you leverage these things with your innovation in particular? Sometimes these things you might need to think about outside of your innovation. It might be your core really needs some help, and that's okay. But I want you to consider your innovation too. So what can you do inside of pre-teaching to help this grow, or case management or family engagement, whatever it is that your innovation is? I'm going to give you a minute to think about this because then we're going to go into breakout rooms where you do some collaboration, but I want to give you some think time just to kind of think through before I just send y'all into your rooms to think about the questions. And I have the questions on this slide too. Just keep thinking, and I'm gonna start putting y'all in breakout rooms. Okay, so we're missing Brandon today, like I said, but Miss Antoinette, Jordan, and Stacy are going to be in room 1. Botany, Christy, and Melissa, you're going to be in room 2, and I'm going to join room 2 initially to kind of help if we need to help generate any ideas or discussions, and then I'll poke into room 1. It's 11:30. I'm going to leave us in our rooms until 11:40 unless I see that the discussion's kind of wrapping up. But usually I'll have a lot to kind of ping pong. And if you've exhausted this and you want to talk about other things that are working inside of the grant or the innovation of your schools, feel free to transition after you've kind of thought about these questions. Any questions about what we're discussing before I put y'all in breakout rooms? Nope. Okay. I'm going to open up the rooms.
We're supposed to be talk about what it is that we need
One of the things that I put was that we need work on fluency. And although I do like CKLA skills, it does lack fluency practice for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, we are starting to, and I think it's necessary to add our own fluency practice. Mm-hmm. We do it when the kids come. And Natalie, what you said, you kind of made sense. Like sometimes you have to reevaluate and you have to look at the lessons, and you may have to, according to kids' needs, you may have to teach that lesson, but you may have to supplement. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we're starting to at this point. And when the kids come to us, but not only when the kids come to me and my paras, we're also doing it in the classroom. We're adding fluency practice, a daily fluency practice to build their fluency up. We're finding that the fluency is there. It's getting there. But when it comes time to take the test, they're struggling with the fluency there. So we've got to do something to fix that.
Christy, do you mean they're struggling like to get it, they're up their score words correct per minute? Are you referring to a test like just to see if they can read?
I'm talking about just a test, a test, a cold read test.
Gotcha.
Reading and answering questions and comprehending.
Gotcha.
They can do it guided, because both basically CKLA, that's what it is. It's guided instruction.
Right.
There's very little time for fluency practice. They practice with their partners, but it's very little. Mm-hmm. So we need to build that up.
I completely agree. And I think you said such a great thing. What I always wanted my teachers to understand is we don't take away pieces of the curriculum. We need them to get to the level, but a lot of times they need pieces to even get to that level, right? So what do they need in order to fully access it is a free range as far as you're building up to that level and that skill. And that's awesome. So one thing that just made me think about the cold read in particular is, do we know, because fluency in itself, unless you're like practicing with comprehension questions with the fluency, it's going to up their words correct per minute, but it might necessarily automatically impact their ability to read and understand, right? So It might be helping them read the passage faster, but they still might have that comprehension issue, which could be all kinds of things. And that's something different to kind of explore too, keep going that fluency practice, letting them become proficient with that. Let the teachers feel good about that. Let the practice become proficient, and then start layering. Why do we think they're having comprehension issues? Is it vocabulary? Is it grammar? Is it sentence structure? Is it the complexity of text? Like what do you think's what is the root cause of them comprehending, right? I love that.
Yeah, we noticed that for our younger babies, those nonsense words, they were struggling with it. So we had to throw in the nonsense calendars, and during our acceleration time and our skills block time, we tried to throw in extra activities for them to practice on that skill. And it has improved a lot. I can't wait to see our mid-year scores.
Melissa, I love y'all small groups. They're doing something interesting. They're taking like the CKLA pieces during their intervention block. And they have it was a second grade that I saw, and there was 3 different groups. And in one, they had a kindergarten reader, and they're doing practices with the kindergarten skills. And then in one, they're doing first grade, one they're doing second grade. And then they move it back into their core block where they're working on, second grade core material. But that's going to help them anyway, because they're working for the ones that the nonsense words is a struggle. This is second grade. I'm sure kindergarten's doing something different,
Yeah.
But working on those phonemic awareness skills and blending is going to help them read those nonsense words. So the more that y'all are practicing that, the more proficient they're going to become with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Same with our first grade too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Natalie, you have an idea of the struggles that we have over here, and so with this last look at the Acadience data, that's where we realized that I think that's when we realized that it's a little worse than we thought, and so we're now trying to we're trying to have them implement small groups, and so we had them scratch the small groups that they had to go, and so we looked at the data and we gave them just 5 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so this week they were given the assessment off of from the lift kit,
Mhm.
so that they can bring it back next week, and then we can pinpoint and then walk them through how to actually do the small grouping. And that's setting everything up, what the rest of the class does, and how they're teaching that small group. So, you know, it kind of feels like we're constantly going backwards, but I know we're going to have to be able to get us to go forward, but it's like every step we take, we realize something else and then have to go back. So
Sometimes it takes going back, but I need to go forward for sure. And did y'all share the results yet of the cadence data with the teachers?
yes,
What did they say about that?
it's the kids' fault. You
Okay.
know, we have ESL.
Okay.
I got sped kids in my class.
Okay.
I can't stop them from misbehaving, but we could not get them, like, no matter what question or a way to push the conversation back to what it is that they were thinking, you know, what they were doing in the classroom.
Right.
It was constant. It was just a circle of talking that, you know, we were just like, we were trying to figure out how.
Tired. You were tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that y'all have an especially this darn thing. I thought I put 10 minutes. It might kick us out, might put us back in. We talked about this. Y'all are having staffing issues and everything else too. I know the master teachers plugging holes, teaching classes. Has that gotten any better, Botany, or is it still kind of the same?
We had another teacher leave after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sorry, Christmas.
Mhm.
And so, but they're figuring out a way to plug the upper grades. The lower grades, we're fine right now, because we noticed that the lower ones are being ignored.
Okay.
I've been pulling those,
Okay.
but there's so many of them.
Yeah.
So I started with one class this week.
Mhm.
I'm gonna add another class next week because I didn't want to add everybody's class at one time. I wanted to get one class rolling, then add the next class, so on and so forth. I have no clue what you asked me.
That's okay.
I wonder what happened.
Y'all have to forgive me today. I'm technologically challenged, apparently. Like, I don't know. It's definitely a Friday. It definitely feels like a Friday. Bonnie was talking about great things. I was going to put us back in our breakout rooms to finish the discussion, but I feel like there's so few of us, and I feel like they were talking about great things. I know y'all were too, I'm sure, Stacy and Jordan. But I wanted to kind of have, first of all, Bonnie, I'm going to come and one thing I want you to consider, we're talking about this, and this is, again, not a problem for one school. This is like a global problem that happens pretty much all over. So Acadian's data shows that the students are not growing at the rate they should be. The teachers are already, we know, kind of resilient to the curriculum. When asked why, it's all about the student can't do it, ESL, special education, all these things that we all hear, right? This is not like one person's issue. This is happening everywhere. There's a couple of things that we can do to definitely fix those things. The best thing to do, I found, like in my capacity, I was a master teacher for 5 years. So it's essentially kind of what you are. Just you have a literacy level of expertise where I was, pre-K 9, but going in, finding, I would find the most challenging classroom in the whole school. And I would put myself in there for one period, at least 3 to 4 days a week. And I would go teach them, even if I could only afford a portion of that lesson. And we would look to see how those students grew. What I think is the most valuable thing I've learned in the literacy division is that how we learn to read, truly, the science of reading, phonemic awareness, phonological awareness, and phonics, it helps every single kid learn to read. Not just regular education or special education or ESL. We all learn to read the exact same way. I didn't know that. When I was a middle school teacher, I thought that if a child had dyslexia, they needed to go to a special school. They had to have special teachers and special materials. And I really thought that because I wasn't told otherwise. I wasn't taught otherwise. And it's not until later where we see if that child is struggling, it's because they need more practice with phonemic and phonological awareness, because it takes longer for that child to map those sounds in their brain and then later match that to a graphic or representation of that letter. That is so powerful to know, because when teachers know that, it means that every special education child, every ESL child, every child learns the same way. It's just how much more exposure they need. It's such a powerful thing. And when the teachers see you or another person on campus start to do that with their kids, it now becomes indisputable proof that it works. You can't argue with it anymore. You can fight against it, but it doesn't matter because it works. It's proven. And so, Bonnie, I was kind of asking you about like personnel and like plugging holes for that reason. So if that can happen, that's going to be the most powerful thing to happen. That's also going to help with the core problem, because they're going to see you using the core in an effective way and the reason why it works. And that helps that too. But I would love to come plan with y'all more and help, and even be boots on the ground if y'all need me to come help run some classes or some centers for some model lessons for sure. Because like I said, that's not an isolated issue. That's happening. That's happening everywhere. Something great that Christy mentioned was, the teachers needing sometimes to manipulate that curriculum to meet the needs of the kids. One thing I want to be super clear about, though, is when I say that, I don't mean sometimes I would have teachers be like, the kid can't do this, right? The kid, this would happen more in my Eureka classes and less in my guidebooks or CKLA classes, but they'd be like, the kids can't do this inside the curriculum. We can't let them say that. We have to say, what do we need to add in order for them to get to that? So just make sure when you're planning and doing those things, like she said, the kids, they noticed the kids needed more fluency practice. That wasn't in the curriculum. That is definitely something we can do to help them access the curriculum. If they need more practice with the words, if they need more practice with fluency and what it sounds like, feedback to get it right, so they can read more proficiently to access cold read assessments or CKLA assessments or whatever it is, feel free to do that. But kind of still having that lens that we know they can get to I promise they can. I promise they can get there. I know you know they can get there. They can get it. They can access the curriculum, right? All day, every day, I had kids come to us, 2 failing schools that we grew to C schools 2 times within a period of 3 to 4 years. I know they can. I've seen it so many times. I know with y'all's level of expertise, I know it can happen too. Are there any big needs that y'all were discussing that you feel like you need more support on to talk through more? Nope. Okay. I want y'all really just to see, I saw some nod shakes a little bit. Some of y'all may be already considering all these different stakeholders on your campuses or your campus as far as like improving your leaders' knowledge or your para's knowledge or your teacher's knowledge, but consider all 3 of them, because that just takes some of your load off when you have all of those moving pieces and parts. My principal for the longest was a PE teacher, and he was my educational leader on campus. And so he needed a lot of support and help around what K2 looked like in literacy, right? But the more that I helped him understand, the more powerful he became with walkthroughs, with feedback for the teachers, with post plans and giving, evaluation post plans to those teachers to help them grow, or checking if I went in and modeled something, having him and my APs going around to check to see if that's really happening across campus, because they truly understood what I was talking about. It just builds such a solid foundation across your campus or your campuses when when you start to impart all that knowledge on all those people. So any last minute questions before we hop off? Nope. I will see you all for the in-person sessions for School Support Institute. I can't wait to see you all in person. I'm loving y'all so much. Y'all like when y'all leave me, I'm gonna be like, oh my God, my people, like it's my students or something. But if y'all need me in the meantime, y'all know where to find me. I'm always here. So just a phone call or an email or a Zoom away, and keep doing the amazing things that you're doing, because it's working. It's working. So y'all have a great weekend.